What's poppin', everybody? Thank you yet again for tuning into the channel. Back on behalf of www.ETCZAYA.com. Be sure to check out that link in the description. And I'm back with another Z-mail, man. This is my second Z-mail for today. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. I wanted to ask you about your life from 15. And if it's too personal, you don't have to answer. I'm 15, and I've heard you on multiple occasions say you started to live on your own at 15. There are now people these days, I don't know, who do things like drop out or run away from home, and I feel personally that shouldn't be a thing in today's time due to all the opportunities, chances given to them. Point is, how or what triggered you to leave and be on your own, and how was the experience up to this point? All right, so real personal question on that one, and no, yeah, it's a personal question, but it's, I don't think I've ever really gotten a question that I can't necessarily answer. I don't really take stuff personal. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and try to keep it short and sweet. But I do ramble, so bear with me. Yeah, at 15, I left home. I used to live with my grandmother. I grew up with my grandmother, and my grandmother was real strict. She's an old style grandmother, and she's one of those that just fought for everything. Everything was just a fight, and at that time, my mom was, in and out of my life, and unfortunately became incarcerated. So for a long time, I waited to, really build that relationship with my mom and get out my grandmother's house. And when I heard that she got incarcerated, I figured, you know what, it's time to dip. I just wasn't feeling living with my grandmother anymore. It was just getting really old really fast. So yeah, at 15, man, I said, fuck it, literally. It's funny too, I remember the last meal that I ate. It was French fries and chicken wings. Simple but amazing. So yeah, man, I decided one day, it was literally the next day, I spoke to my mom on the phone. She told me that she had got, locked up and that she probably would be going away for a little bit. So I said, fuck it, man. I'm out this bitch. I'm blowing this joint. And at the time, I didn't really have a plan. The only thing that was good, that was going for me was, I believe that, you could see it in me that I was already getting kind of tired of living with my grandmother. And my uncle, like a week or 2 weeks before that, had told me, if you ever leave home and you need somewhere to stay, you definitely have a place where I could live. Well, I could stay with him, per se. So at that time, I packed my bags. I spoke to my mom that night. My mom said, "Hey, I'm going to be going away for a little bit. So, you're a man, and I've given you, some tools in life." And at that time she did, man. She really put me on the game. And my mom was the type that never held no punches. She told me how it was. So early on, I felt that was good. So, I spoke to her and we got off the phone. I ate my meal and I literally packed my bag, man. And the next day I left home. And, since then, I've been on my own. There's been times where I've stayed with people, I'm not gonna lie with that, because as you go through that, at 15, you probably shouldn't be in the streets. You probably should be, in school and doing sports and stuff like that. But yeah, I left and I went to stay with my uncle. And I had a great time, man. But my uncle was, he wasn't the type to be laying around doing nothing. So I went to work with him in construction. He still required me to go to school, so I still maintained going to school. And from there, I just, I did what I had to do. And unfortunately, there was a lot of instances because I was so young and when I was a young kid, I was just a real, I guess you could say, angry kid at a lot of the situations that I was being placed in. But again, a lot of that was being done by my own hand. So, I did my thing with my uncle, and, I worked and I went to school. And then, the construction thing, because my uncle worked in construction, it wasn't really my thing. So I ended up getting I don't think they have the program anymore, but in New York, because I used to live in New York, they used to have something called co-op, where you would go to school 1 week and you would work 1 week, and it was part of school. So I did that for 2 years, my last 2 years in high school, and then, I graduated. And, the experience now, that I look back on it versus when I was actually going through it, yeah, it's definitely a lot different, man. There's definitely a lot more opportunity now, and kids get away with a lot more now than at that age. But I would say that, it's not something that I would recommend to anyone to just run away from home at 15. You definitely want to have some sort of plan and effect, because, there's no point in going back. If you're gonna leave, there's no point in going back. Plain and simple. It just never. It doesn't really show that your mind is in the right place. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like going back on your word. Like if you leave, you want to be a man or a woman and stay away and show people that you can progress in life. So 15 is definitely not an age I want to be recommending anyone to leave home. You definitely want to, kind of stick it out, man. I know parents can be rough, but believe me that there is a lot of responsibility once you're on your own. So you definitely want to get a little bit under your belt before you just decide to dip. A lot of us, and even at that time, I thought the same thing. You think that, the streets is where it's at and you're missing something, and everyone's having fun, but you're not having fun. And, once you're on your own, the fun is literally out the window. The fun you were hoping for literally is out the window, because then you have to deal with life. Don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna say that it's just gonna be miserable, but think about it. There's a lot of things that start to come into play that you didn't have to worry about before. Mainly a roof over your head. That's number one. Mainly food, mainly going to school, mainly, there's a lot of things that you don't realize that your parents offered you, or your, whoever you live with, whether it be a mom and dad, a grandmother. There's a lot that you're getting in return for staying there. So, I'm not one to stop anyone from leaving, but I'm definitely want to be the first to say it's not easy. There's going to be a lot of hard bumps in the road, and you're just going to have to deal with that. And hopefully it makes you a better person. And hopefully, no matter what path you take, it ends up on a positive path, because there's going to be some negative stuff that you do along your way. And that's where, you're on that path, and you may do something that may compromise yourself, and you veer off a little bit. But as long as you veer back and you get back to that positive path, and you end up doing your thing and really showing people that you were going to be successful either way. But for the most part, yeah, man, it was a rough time, but I had a lot of fun, man. I definitely veered off the path several times. I did a lot of drugs when I was younger, and as I look back, man, it's weird, because I'm not regretful of a lot of it. I think it made me a better person, and it gave me life experience. But when I look back at it, I'm like, man, I could have done stuff a little differently. I could have saved money. I could have, really thought it out. Plus, New York wasn't a market. New York for me is not a market to do that. It's just too expensive. Florida, I see that happening in Florida, because it's super easy to get your own crib. It's super easy to afford living on your own. You could get a fucking bullshit job and have an apartment, plain and simple. It won't be the best apartment. You won't be living in the best of neighborhoods, but any young individual can get a job and afford to live on their own. Especially, when we look at something like the shoe community, a lot of kids that go to these shows, I be seeing them with bags of money, but they're like right under their mom or right under their dad. So I'm like, little do you know, you probably could afford to, just be on your own. But yeah, it's not something that I recommend to anybody, man. You 15 out there, the person that asked the question is 15. I think you should stick it out, man. Best place is home. Live the life at home for as long as you possibly can. Save money and try to accomplish as much as you can under that roof, because there's not a lot of expectation that comes from a 15-year-old other than, maybe chores and do well in school. So you want to maximize that for the longest amount of time. If you know that it's on the verge, you're on the verge of leaving, then you may want to start thinking more responsibly, saving money, thinking of a plan, thinking of a course of action, and I think you'll be fine, man. But for the most part, pretty cool question. I liked it. I was able to kind of get stuff out there. But yeah, man, I'll leave you with that. Good luck to you, young brother. I hope that you make the right choice. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and leave you out with that. Zaya_X_0712 at yahoo.com is where you can send a question. And I'm out of here, man. Everybody stay up, stay fresh. Peace.